What's happening, guys? Jim the Game Guru. Happy holidays to you. Man, I can't believe we're all the way down into December already, and Christmas is going to come up and fly by before we know it. And I've got another compilation video for you today. This time I'm going to do my top 60 games for as long as I've owned my Switch, from the dawn of time when it first came out until now. All the games that I love, poured sweat and time into, and put them on one list. Go from 60 to my number one favorite game so far on the Switch. If you guys are new here, please consider subscribing. And if you make it to number one in this video, so this will probably be a pretty decent sized video considering it's got 60 games on it, I have a little surprise challenge up there that I'm going to try for the very first time. I've never done that in any other video. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the list. Alright, so let's start off with number 60 on the list, and we're going to start off with a shoot 'em up. It is Skyforce Reloaded. This game, I feel, has excellent graphics, great controls to it. It is a very simple game. It is a shooter, so it's not going to be anything outstanding as far as story. It is a little grindy, though. It gets to a point where you do have to put a lot of time in order to try to max out a lot of the weapons. That's one thing that I really do not like about the game. But other than that, I think the boss battles are fun. I like the challenges for each of the levels. You have different objectives that you have to try to get in each level. 59th on the list is Lode Runner Legacy. Now, this is going to be one game that I don't think very many people are going to like. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Most people are going to be like, this is a garbage game. The reason why I have this one on my list is because I played this a lot on the Switch. And I actually love it because I have nostalgia for Lode Runner. I used to play Lode Runner on the Atari and any other kind of retro system you can think of. The Lode Runner Legacy actually contains the classic version of Lode Runner in there, along with the new version of Lode Runner. And most of the time I'm playing the classic version, and a lot of the levels that I used to play back in the Atari days are in this version. So that is why it is on this list. Number 58 is Blossom Tales: The Sleeping King. Is a cute Zelda, almost like a Link to the Past style game. It's got cute pixel art. It's about a game where you have a grandfather telling a story to his kids, and one of the grandchildren is actually the main protagonist in the story. It's not a very long game. I don't know. It's been a long time since I played it. It's probably about 6-ish hours long, so it's actually pretty short game to play, but it does have a lot of gameplay. It's similar to Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, and I thought it was actually a cute game. Number 57 on the list is Blaster Master Zero. Now, here's another game that I have a lot of nostalgia for because I used to play Blaster Master all the time on the NES, the 8-bit, the original 8-bit NES. This newer version is an absolute gem. I like how they took that classic Blaster Master game, but they made it better. And in this game, your protagonist is named Jason. You get into this vehicle called the Sophia, and you go down into kind of lower depths of the planet, and you end up going through different levels and finding bases and killing bosses. On the outside, when you're in the vehicle, it's a lot of platforming and shooting, but then you can actually get out of your vehicle and go into the bases and walk around with your character and shoot things. I like how they have additional characters for this now, so it's not just the main protagonist. You can actually have DLC that you can become different characters from different games. And they also have Blaster Master 0, 2, and 3, which takes the action outside off the planet into more of the solar system area. I have not played 2 and 3 yet, but the first one was one of the first games that I played on the Switch, and I absolutely love it. 56 on the list is the Bards Tale. Man, is this one of the funniest games I've ever played. This game makes fun of RPG games. It's an RPG game that has a crazy, weird top-down view to it, but it makes fun of RPG games within all the scenarios and situations that the Bard gets into. And in this game, the Bard is supposed to save a princess. The princess is in the tower. As the Bard goes through his adventures, it's just so funny with all the different interactions with other characters. The action is okay. I guess you can call it more of an action RPG, and the graphics are very outdated, but the game is an actual blast to play. It is very buggy, though. That's one thing I want to say. There are some bugs on this game that actually make you have to restart the game, which is very annoying. 55th on the list is Inferno 2. I've actually talked about this game plenty of times on previous lists, previous videos. It is an awesome shmup title. It actually supports full co-op play. It's got this very chill drum and bass type of music in the game, and you go through these different levels and you end up shooting a lot of objects. It's kind of like almost like Geometry Wars, but their own version of it, because a lot of the objects you're shooting are like little round shapes, glowing shapes, and neon colors. There are bosses in there too. I think for a $5 game, it's awesome. If you like shooters and you want a cheap shooter for $5, well, there you go. 54th on the list is something that I finished not too long ago. It's Actraiser Renaissance. Actraiser Renaissance is a reboot of the old Actraiser game that was on the Super Nintendo. It's got a mixture of town management and platforming. Whenever you're in the 2D platformer, you're going through and you're actually fighting bosses and you're fighting other enemies. And then when you're in the town management part, you're just kind of guiding your town through the different regions and destroying and sealing off monster lairs. And then eventually what happens is during the story, you're going to get to a point where you're going to go down and try to fight the end boss for each area. 53rd on the list is Shinsekai Into the Depths. Now this one doesn't get talked about at all. It came out a while ago. It's very secretive. It doesn't tell you a whole lot in the game, but basically you're a protagonist in the water and you're wearing this kind of like this diver suit, and you're going through this environment of this kind of almost like post-apocalyptic type thing where it's all water, covered water, and you have to go down further and further and further into the water and upgrade your suit, and then you kind of discover secrets within the land. It is a little bit like Metrovania as far as the map aspect and the way you move around, but for the most part, it's pretty linear on where you have to go. So 52nd on the list is a game that I played a lot with my children, because children, for some reason, love to beat the crap out of other people whenever they play video games. And here we go with Streets of Rage 4. Kids love brawlers. If you have kids and you don't mind fighting, they love brawlers. They brought back the classic Streets of Rage action, put it in a new version with new graphics. The story's kind of garbage, but that's okay because brawlers are supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be just running around beating the crap out of everybody and just getting through this cheesy story with these bosses until you get to the very end. The end bosses are actually pretty challenging because you gotta beat 2 of them, so it's not just one boss you're beating there. It looks great, it feels great, I mean, it really plays well, and I actually have a blast. In this game, we beat this game quite a few times with my kids. Okay, so 51st on the list is Project Warlock. Now here, this game is kind of like a retro first-person shooter game, like the old stuff, like Doom, Rise of the Triad, kind of like some of those old styles, but they put newer elements in this game. And in this game, what you're a warlock, and you're just going through and defeating evil, and you go through these different stages. There's 60 levels in, I think, 5 different areas, and you're going through these levels, and you're just basically trying to make your way through until you get to the end of that area, and then you face a big boss. The gameplay is solid, but it takes a while to get used to. It literally took me like an hour and a half or 2 hours to actually get into the game before I finally figured out the gameplay and how, the enemies move and the best way to move around and strafe and shoot them. So it does take a little while to get into. When you first play, you're probably going to be like, oh my god, this is kind of garbage. But then after you get into it, it gets really, really good. And I like how it takes the retro first-person shooter and adds this new lighting effect and stuff. And there's upgrades. There's lots of upgrades for your weapons, and then there's and upgrades for your character. 50th on the list is a game that I never expected was going to be any good. I thought it was going to be a trash mobile game, and that is Cat Quest. Cat Quest is a story about a cat where you have to go and rescue. I can't remember if it's your sister or if it's your girlfriend, but anyway, you have to rescue another cat, and then there's this evil Dark Lord cat, and you go through this kind of world and you go from town to town to town. I like the way the world is laid out and how you move around. The graphics are really smooth. It is actually had some charm to it. It was way better than I thought. It is not a long game. This is another one of those shorties. I think I played it within like a day and a half and I was done. But it was actually a good time. And there's actually modifiers in the game that you can go back and you can play with these modifiers to try to get the really, really good loot. And it's super, super challenging with those modifiers. Okay, number 49 on the list is Heave Ho. Amazing, amazing, amazing co-op game. This game will absolutely have you laughing like crazy. It is super funny. And it's funny because, not because of the content. It's not because, like, oh, haha, funny, like jokes or anything like that. It's funny because you get to a point where in these levels, you have to get your characters across the screen from one starting point to an end point. And then there gets a point where you can't do it, and you just start laughing out of just pure delirium because you can't do it. And man, I can't tell you how many times I've had like crazy laughter in it. Graphics, not good at all. It's garbage. It is a cheap game though. I think it's like $8 or something like that. Maybe it might be $10 now. I feel like the price on that game keeps going up by a few dollars every year. But yeah, that game is awesome. Heave Ho is definitely, if you have not played it and you like co-op games, get Heave Ho. 48th game is Cave Story. This one is an action platforming shooter game, and you're a protagonist that you can't really remember much, and you're in this world and you're trying to save these animals from this evil doctor. It is not a long game, and it is actually an expensive game. It's $30 game for a game that is not long at all, but it is hard as hell on certain levels. There are certain levels that took me quite a long time before I was actually able to finish it. It is a game that also has multiple endings. There is no way in hell that you're gonna get the perfect ending on the first try. It's impossible. And after you go through and you beat this game and you get the bad ending or the regular ending, whatever you want to call it, that's not the extra special ending, you're gonna have to go online and look up the true ending, because you need to get a bunch of things like items in a certain way, and you need to save a character in a certain way, and it's actually pretty challenging. And it's, for some reason, this game also has some of the most memorable characters, and like Curly Brace, even the protagonist in this game has been pretty popular, and you've probably seen them somewhere else in other video games. But Cave Story is an awesome title. It's got this 8-bit graphics though. It's kind of like NES style graphics. But the developer on this game did a masterful job. I just do not like the price on it. I think the price is so expensive. $30 for it is nuts. But if you can find this game on sale at any point, like for like a few dollars, like $6 or $10. 47th on the list is The Spectrum Retreat. Now this one is a puzzle title. It's probably the only puzzle title that I have on this list. And what you are in a hotel and you need to figure out what the hell is going on in this hotel, and you need to go up several floors in this hotel. And the only way to go up several floors in this hotel is by beating the puzzles in every single floor. It's a first-person view puzzle where you actually have to grab colors from cubes and you store it on your phone, and then you can actually then transfer that color to other cubes. Every single floor has several different puzzles that you have to get through, and they're actually kind of hard. 46th on the list is Monster Boy. This game, I absolutely love the graphics on this game. This game is a Metroidvania style game where you're Monster Boy and you're in this kind of cartoon anime kind of world where you're in this kingdom and chaos has erupted and people have been changed into animals, and you have to go around this entire kingdom looking for orbs. And eventually, as you go through this adventure, you can end up transforming into other animals in order to reach other places within the kingdom. So you know how like a lot of Metroidvanias will basically have doors or something unreachable that's really, really high. Same kind of concept here. You can't get to certain areas because maybe you don't have a key, or maybe because you don't have an ability that allows you to fly up or whatever. But Monster Boy, it's a little expensive. It's about $40. I don't like the price of that. It does go on sale a lot for like 50% off. I wish they would just lower it to $19 regular price. Number 45th on the list is No Kuni Wrath of the White Witch. Awesome RPG title where you're the protagonist in this game is off to another dimension. You try to save your mother and you have to encounter the minions and the White Witch who's out to basically stop you. Environments are super, super cool. It's literally like an anime world. This game does go on sale a lot. I feel like it's got a fantastic price on it usually. And it's got this little Pokemon element where you get these familiars and you can actually equip them with armor and you can upgrade them, and they do most of the battling for you in the battles. Absolutely awesome game, and it runs really well on the Switch. Number 44th on the list is Fast RMX. It's a futuristic racing title that gives me me the feeling of Daytona USA that has been mixed with Wipeout. And if you've ever played Wipeout the game, it's futuristic racing where you have these vehicles that hover above the track, just like this one. But the reason why I say Daytona USA is because like the way like a lot of the action noises and the way the action sounds in this game, it kind of reminds me of those in that game. But most of the racing game is more like Wipeout. And there's this cool polarity thing in this game where you can actually flip your polarity from blue to orange, and then that's how you get faster and faster. And each of the tracks, and this game has amazing tracks, each of the tracks will have these orange and blue strips on them. And they'll actually have these little pads too that actually force your ship to jump up to other levels, and you have to have the right polarity in order to do that. 43rd on the list is Immortals Fenyx Rising. Okay, so here we go, and we're gonna get into some Greek mythology. 3D open world game where you are mortal and you have to go through this land and help the gods. The writing in this game, absolutely fantastic. It's humorous. I love the action in it. I love the power-ups you get into it. And this game kind of reminds me a lot of like Breath of the Wild. It doesn't really have the same exact art style of it. And you have this big, huge badass, I believe his name is Typhon, and he's a titan. And you basically have to go around and help all these gods. And then as you help them, they'll give you abilities. And then until you get to the point where you can actually confront Typhon. Oh, man, that game is awesome. The only thing I don't like about that game that drives me absolutely nuts, I don't like Ubisoft's microtransactional bullcrap with their own store in the game. That I absolutely hate that. And you have to create a Ubisoft account before you can play the game. For 42nd on the list, let's get into another shooter, SIne Mora EX. So this shmup here, it's nothing extraordinary as far as abilities or actual action in the game, but the thing that I like about it is that it's very, very well polished. It's fun. It's a fun shmup title. It looks fantastic. It's got a story to it where you have this guy that's lost his son and he's going back on revenge. And the characters, a lot of the characters in there they're animals. They're kind of like humanoid animal characters. And I love how you are controlling the different characters at different points in this game on different stages within the different parts of the story. So there'll be a time where you're flying as one character and you'll hear the story, the dialogue, something going on. And then the next level, it'll do like a flashback or flash forward where you're the character that was on the other side of that communication talking to the character that you were playing before. And I just love how they did that with the different pieces. There is an interesting time-stopping mechanic in this game where you can stop the actions, kind of slow it down. But, of course, that has a certain energy bar, and once you absorb that, it's all gone. Really good boss fights to it, and it just looks beautiful. So it's probably not the most popular title out there, and some people may balk at it when they look at it, but I played it and I thought this was a great shmup title. 41 on the list is Terraria. Awesome game, pixel art game where you're on a side kind of 2D platforming and you're in this world that you can kind of dig down or kind of go up in it. And it's almost like as if you took, I don't know, like Mario Brothers, mixed it with Minecraft and had a little bit of Zelda in it. And you took the three of those together in a kind of a way. I feel like that is what I feel Terraria is like. It's very unique, very different because you're in this kind of open world 2D and you can make your own base and you can make your own furniture in the base and you can make it look the way you want. And if you don't want to do that, then fine. Then dig down through the world and find treasure. Defeat enemies, find treasure. It's actually an awesome title. The Switch title did have a rocky start when it first came out because there was a bunch of bugs on there, but I think they flushed out a lot of the bugs. 40th on the list is Golf Story. This game is a game where you're a protagonist and you're a golfer and you're trying to get better and kind of make something out of yourself in the golf world. And you start off in this really crappy course, and then as you go through, you'll end up going to other courses. It is a top-down view, and it's this game's more about the story than it is the actual golf action. So this is not going to be like something like Tiger Woods or anything like that. This is more about the story, kind of an RPG in a way, but you're not having RPG battles or anything. It's like it's you basically go through and you meet characters. You have these small little tiny missions that you have to do on each one of these courses, and after you do everything as far as your little mini quests or whatever in each course, then eventually eventually you'll end up getting to the other courses. And every course has a different challenge. And this game is not serious. This game is supposed to be very, very silly. It's supposed to be about the story, the characters, and just experiencing this as you go through each one of the courses. Like, there's even a point where you get this one course and you're playing frisbee golf. You're not actually playing golf with your clubs. I loved it. I thought it was a really good game. It's a cheaper title. It's a pixel art game, and it was fun. 39th on the list is a popular title. It's an oldie title. It's Cuphead. It is kind of a platforming shooter game, kind of run and gun, where you are two protagonists that have sold your soul to the devil because you lost it in a casino game. And what you have to do in order to repay your debt to the devil is go through all these different levels and you beat bosses. It's almost like a boss rushing game in a way. I mean, sometimes you'll get into these run and gun levels that you have to go from a start to an end, but a lot of the levels you'll actually just start fighting the boss right away. It's a game that has amazing graphics. They have this 1930s old cartoon style graphics, and I absolutely love that title. 38th on the list is Minecraft. If I would have created this list a long time ago, Minecraft would probably be higher on the list. The reason why I have it on 38th is because I played Minecraft to death. I played it on my Xbox 360. I played it on the Switch with my children, and I've played it so much that I'm so sick and tired of Minecraft. But you know what? I have to give it props. It is actually a good game. That's why it is on this list. Yes, it's at 38, but it is a fantastic title. If you've never played Minecraft and you want to get into an open world sandbox environment where you can build your own bases and castles or build whatever you want, your own village, it's a great game. I mean, the game has a creative mode and a survival mode. Survival mode, you basically don't have all the resources available to you and you can die. But then in creative mode, you can fly around, you can build whatever you want. It's up to you whether or not you want to play it kind of realistically to survive or whether or not you want to play it creatively. 37th on the list is Dragon's Dogma. Man, this is such a beautiful game from Capcom. I really, really wish they would come out with a sequel for this. I mean, it probably wouldn't even be able to be played on the Switch if they did, because it would probably have insane graphics and require too much processing power, etc. But that's okay. I would still buy it on a different system. But this game, yeah, it's an action RPG that is just, it's so much fun. It is so much fun. It is an open world. The open world aspect to it, though, is kind of limited, though. I mean, there's certain times where you can't climb up these certain mountains and you feel like you get boxed in. But for the most part, it's an open world. It's got a lot of creatures everywhere in the world that you can actually fight. The combat in this game is amazing. You can climb on big creatures and stab on them while you're riding them, you're just stabbing them with your sword. You have actually pawns that you can take with you as part of your party. Awesome quests. Awesome environment. The environment is a little old looking because it's an older title, but it still plays well and looks great to me. I mean, I'm happy with it. But yeah, Dragon's Dogma, I highly recommend that if you like action RPGs. 36th on the list is Sniper Elite 3. Yeah, this game satisfies my itch for that sneaking around in different missions, coming up to people, stabbing them from the back. This game is awesome. I have not played Sniper Elite 2 or 4 yet. I know 4 got released for the Switch as well. But Sniper Elite 3, I used to have that on Xbox 360, and I ended up having to buy it on the Switch because it's just so much fun. The graphics look good on it. I love the whole sneaking around, kind of like Metal Gear Solid style, or even I won't say it was so much Metal Gear Solid, but more like Splinter Cell, I guess you'd call it, because Splinter Cell had a lot of that sneaking around. But yeah, in this game, during the missions, you have to basically satisfy objectives. And in the mission, they'll tell you, hey, go here, do this, whatever. You can also collect secret little papers and pamphlets or manuals or whatever are lying around, and every single one of the levels will actually have, hey, this extra objects if you found them or not. The sniping is really cool. I mean, you can easily do headshots, and you can actually hold your breath and do a nice headshot as you're doing that. And then you have to shoot people when you have other sound going on, so you need to time it just right so that people can't detect you, because in this game it's all about being detected or not. If they detect you, they'll follow you, and if they follow you and then eventually you can evade them, then they won't know you're around anymore. So it's a whole lot of stealth action. And then there's also another mode in this game where you're kind of in this wide open area and a bunch of enemies just storm you. It's kind of like a horde mode where you'll have different waves of enemies coming at you. I can't remember what it's called. Can't remember if it's survival or whatever. It's been a while since I played it, but yeah, that game is awesome. 35th on the list is Diablo 3. Diablo 3, I don't know what else I can say. This game has been around forever. It's a dungeon crawling game, isometric view, where you go on these quests and you basically go through these different lands and you slaughter a bunch of demons and creatures and stuff, collect the loot from them, get even more powerful. It's an awesome game if you want up to 4 players playing at the same time co-op, but it is very grindy. Dungeon crawlers are like that. That's just the state of dungeon crawlers. They're supposed to be grindy and all about loot. And you can actually set the difficulty levels to several difficulties higher than the natural progression. 34th on the list is Hades. Here you go. We have a roguelite where you're the son of Hades trying to get the hell out. And it's an isometric view, and you get more and more powerful as you go through this game with additional abilities. You have a few different weapons you can get. Great visuals. Every time you go through these different areas, you can have a choice. You'll have a choice. Well, sometimes they won't give you a choice. Sometimes you have to go straight across if you end up beating the enemies in that room. But there'll be a lot of times in this game where after you beat enemies, they'll give you a choice. Hey, you can go through this door and get this, or you can go through this door and get that. The action is fantastic in it, and the characters are great, and it's a solid roguelike. So if you're into roguelites, Hades should definitely be on your list. 33rd on the list is Moonlighter. Here we go. We have another roguelite, back-to-back roguelites here. Moonlighter. This game is like a roguelike game where you're in this town with this protagonist. You're trying to build up a shop, and you have these dungeons, and you can go through these dungeons and collect loot. And when you get the loot, you bring them back into your store and you sell it. So it's got this really cool thing where you can actually sell all of the gears and materials or whatever you get from the dungeons. There's also leveling up with your character and your weapons and armor that you get. The weapons and armor are very, very limited though. That's one thing I'm not a big fan of in this game. It's probably why this game is so far down the list. Like if this game had a ton of gear and weapons that you can get, and the town was a little bigger, and there's a little bit more to explore, and there's maybe a few more dungeons, this game would be like way up there. It would probably be like in the top 10. But it just seems so limited to me, and there's also had some performance issues on it. Now they have had additional DLCs that have come out recently. I think it's 2 DLCs now. I can't remember, but I believe it's 2 DLCs. But I've gone through and I finished the base game, and it's fun. It's got awesome pixel art, great action. It is a little buggy. I've had some times where the game actually crashed, but it's actually a good time if you're into roguelites. 32nd on the list is Monster Sanctuary. Here we go, another Metroidvania title that has a little bit of Pokemon style mixed into it. You go around this world in these different areas, and you can pick up creatures, and you fight with them, and you level them up, and you gain equipment for them. And you can also battle other people if you wanted to. And then there's also a section in the world where you'll actually battle AI monster trainers if you don't want to battle real people. The pixel art is fantastic. I think the menus system's kind of weak, but other than that, I thought this was actually a really strong title. 31st on the list is a game that nobody talks about ever. It is a port. It is Call of Juarez Gunslinger, and it's Cowboys and Indians. Here we go, Cowboys and Indians. Well, there are Indians in this game. Not on too many of the levels. But I don't know what it is with Cowboys and Indians. I think in 2021, nobody likes Cowboys and Indians. Like a lot of these, when I was a kid, Cowboys and Indians were big time. And now in 2021, it's just not very popular. When you look at the movies, and you look at these video games, it's just not very popular, and that's probably why this game doesn't really get talked about, because I think this, for a first-person shooter, this was a fantastic game, and the story is actually really, really good. So you have this protagonist that's in there, and he's going through all of his adventures, and he's talking to these people in the bar, and he recalls going through and facing all these famous kind of outlaws and stuff, and during that time, you're actually playing through the story in first person. The gunplay is really good. I think the abilities are good, and when you get done beating the game, there's actually a new game Game Plus, where you can keep your abilities and go through the entire game again. And obviously it's going to be a little harder. And then the ending also gives you a choice, and I don't want to ruin it, but the ending gives you another choice of a good or bad choice, I guess. You can look at it that way. It's a shame that this game is not played more and not talked about more, because I think it's actually runs well on the Switch and it's fantastic. 30th on the list is Hand of Fate 2. Man, what an interesting game. This game is really, really cool. So in this game, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. And you're at a table and you're with this dude at this table, and you have these little pawns and you have these cards, right? And you move your pawn on these cards. As you move them, that is your choice as far as where you want to go in the adventure. And each one of the cards that get flipped over as you move your pawn on it will kind of tell you about the story, and it'll give you choices of what to do in the story. Sometimes that part of the story will have you go in to a battle in which you're like in this 3D kind of battle area and you're fighting enemies. This game, it was a surprise to me. I just absolutely love the fact that you get new cards, you can get new items, and when you go to select your adventure in this one part, you can kind of select on whose story do you want to go through. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like this choose your own adventure, very textual game, but then it's mixed with this kind of 3D action. So it's very, very unique. I absolutely enjoyed it. 29th on the list. This game brings back Mario for me, and it's Super Mario Odyssey. And Super Mario Odyssey it brings back the Mario adventure, the Mario adventures that I felt when I played Mario 64. I absolutely think Mario 64 is probably one of the best Mario games ever. I thought the levels were awesome. I thought it played well. It's beautiful. It was amazing to play that game on the N64. In this game, I think they've done it even better. It's almost like Mario 64 on steroids. In this game, Mario has a hat that you can throw, and you can throw it on enemies, and you can actually take over those enemies. Like, so if you throw it on a fish, hey, you're a fish swimming around. You throw it on a dinosaur, guess what? You're a dinosaur running around. The levels are absolutely amazing looking. Instead of stars, like you have in Mario 64, you're collecting these secret stars that you find through a level, you find secret moon pieces. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of secret moon pieces in a lot of these levels. And the levels just look amazing. The music's amazing. And I never thought that they would have a game that would probably outshine Mario 64, but they did that with Super Mario Odyssey. Number 28th on the list is Subnautica. Very, very cool game where you're on this water planet. You crash land on this water planet and you have to survive. You have to learn how to grab materials. You have to end up finding scrap metal and scrap parts within the water, and you can build your base. You can build your own base in this game, and you can also build water vehicles, and it's such an awesome experience being able to go through this water planet and just dive deep and finding all this different aquatic life, and some of them are huge and scary. I do wish on the Switch version though they had a little bit more aquatic life. I mean I've never played this game on like the PC or anything, so I don't know if the PC version has way more aquatic life than the Switch version, but I feel like sometimes I'm like, shouldn't there be more? Shouldn't there be more right there? Even though there's a good amount, I'm like, shouldn't there just be a lot more so it looks like super full, like you're swimming through the reef and all these fish come around? But yeah, this game surprised me. I didn't think it was gonna be as good as it was, and it's got a good price to it. It's like $30. It's almost like a little bit of like Minecraft, what Minecraft gives you, but instead you're on this water planet. The performance though is a little shoddy. I'm not gonna lie, there are times where there's some frame rate drops. This game is a perfect example of a game that would benefit from a Switch Pro. And everyone keeps talking about, oh, Switch Pro, Switch Pro. I mean, for the longest time, rumors, Switch Pro, Switch Pro. But this game would benefit from an upgraded Switch model. 27th on the list is another brawler. Let's get into the brawler, River City Girls. Awesome music in this game. Excellent pixel art. Great fighting action. Again, story, not the hottest, because it's super simple. Hey, the boyfriends are gone. They've been kidnapped. Oh, and guess what? The girlfriends need to go and rescue them. Okay, so instead of the dudes rescuing the girls this time it's the girls rescuing the guys. Levels are fun. Big areas to explore as you're going throughout the city. And the music, I don't know if I've already said it already, but the music is absolutely incredible in this game. It's super awesome. But it's a good time if you just want to play a brawler and just walk around and smash some heads in. The bosses, though, are very challenging. I mean, very, very challenging in this game. I actually had a hard time beating some of them with my daughter when we were playing it together. 26th on the list, we're going to get into an RPG. We're going to get into Dragon Quest XI. Everything that's amazing about the Dragon Quest as far as the characters and the graphics and the music, that iconic Dragon Quest music, as soon as you hear it, you know it's Dragon Quest. You are the luminary and you have fled the kingdom after your birth, and somebody from a different village ends up finding you floating in this basket. And when you grow up and you're older, then you go on this quest. You go on this quest as this luminary to figure out your destiny in the world. Out of all the Dragon Quests I've played, I think this one's probably second best to Dragon Quest VIII. I like Dragon Quest VIII better just because it's more nostalgic to me, because I played that a lot on the PS2. But as far as story, as far as environments, as far as characters, this is a solid title. And for some reason, I don't know why, but like in this game, the Dragon Quest games, there's a lot of cross-eyed people, and I have no idea why they do it. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's their little charm to make their eyes look all cross-eyed on a bunch of characters. But hey, whatever. Great title, awesome. You can actually play a retro mode in this game too. If you don't want to play with better graphics in 3D, you can actually play it retro style where it's top down and all pixel art. I think one of the reasons why it's so far down on this list, I really wish that they would kind of evolve the Dragon Quest games. So this game has a lot of almost old, antiquated mechanics in it. Yet they've improved some things. You know, you have a skill tree. You can actually go through the skill tree, and you can actually run around. So like when you're in a battle, you can run around behind the enemies and stuff like that. I'm waiting for the day that they make it like just an open world where you can run around, an action RPG. None of this kind of, you trigger a battle scene. It's as soon as you see enemies, you can just start swinging, whatever. And if you don't want to sit there and swing, you can run in some other direction. Oh, and hey, if you're on a cliff, being able to climb down the cliff, or maybe climbing up a cliff, or swimming through the water, or whatever. I feel like there's certain parts of this game where it limits you. So if you get to a cliff, you can't really climb it, you can't go anywhere. You have to kind of be confined in certain areas of the world. If they were able to improve that and change the battle mechanics a little bit to more of a free action RPG, I think it would make it even better. And one day I think they're going to do that. 25th on the list is Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is a top-down, I wouldn't say farming simulation, because you don't have to sit there and do farming all the time. You can actually go into mines and mine stuff, and then that's where you can actually battle enemies. You can actually find romance. So basically you're a protagonist in this game where you end up leaving the city, you go to a farm that's been kind of handed down to you, and you have to build up this farm. Next to the farm is this town, and you go to town, you meet a bunch of different people, you can have romances with them, you have a bunch of little quests, you can actually go into the mines, like I said earlier, and find like different types of ore. I don't know how to explain it because it has so many different things. It's not all about the farming. I mean, sometimes you can attend special events in the town, like festivals and stuff. It's just an overall solid title that just, it looks great, it feels great, it plays great, and sometimes it just brings you that joy. And I think they did an amazing job on it for the limited resources they had working on the game. And they also added in a multiplayer functionality later on, which I thought was really, really cool. Number 24th on the list is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's one of my favorite RPG titles on the Switch, where you're this protagonist named Rex, and you find this blade called Pyra, and you go on this big adventure, and there's so many different characters. The characters are on this anime style. The worlds look great. I think this game looks really decent on television. It doesn't look that great on portable. The graphics do take a big hit on portable, but the adventure in this game is huge. I mean, it will consume a good portion of your life, especially when you're trying to walk around and level people up sometimes. And Rex and Pyra, they're on this adventure basically to find this end land, and I can't remember what the land is called. It's like Elysium or something. I can't remember. It's been a while since I played the game, but man, was it a blast to play. This game does have an interesting combat mechanic. It's not like, hey, I'm going to choose to attack and this person's going to do this or whatever. The game has this auto combat that some people do not like. It didn't really bother me too much. So during the combat, your characters are just gonna go nuts with their blades, and you just basically click on the button whenever you want to do certain combos or whenever you want to use certain items during that combat, or if you want to retreat. That's one thing that will kind of throw people off, is the auto combat in the game, but the game itself is just absolutely beautiful. And there's actually an expansion for it to add even more content. Number 23 on the list is another dungeon crawler. It's a dungeon crawler that I actually really enjoy, and I can't believe it. I'm gonna say it, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It's Minecraft Dungeons. I absolutely love this game. I feel like the creators of this game took a lot of the stuff about Diablo 3 that was really good. It is very grind-like, but then again, like I said earlier, dungeon crawlers are like that. They're supposed to be like grind for loot. I like how they took different aspects of the Minecraft game, like the underwater areas, the jungle, like all the different biomes that you could think of, the Nether, and they added all of these type of places in Minecraft Dungeons. I think the main home base is well done. This is not one of those games that I play often. I did go through and I beat the entire game on the base difficulty, and every now and then I'll end up going back and playing this game just to grind a little bit to advance on the next difficulty. I think I'm halfway through on the next difficulty playthrough. It's the grinding that sometimes makes me stop. So I'm like, oh, some of the levels get a little too long, and I'm like, oh my god, when's this level gonna end? And then sometimes you go through this entire giant run through one of the levels and you get garbage at the end of it, and you're just like, oh man, that sucked. So that's some of the stuff that keeps me from playing it like non-stop. I do like it enough that I keep coming back and I keep playing it. It's one of those things I do in spurts. As far as a dungeon crawler, I think they did an amazing job on Minecraft Dungeons. 22nd on the list is Yokus Island Express. Okay, so this one is one of the first games I played on my Switch, and I got so obsessed with it, I had to continue until I beat it and 100% the game. So in this game, they have this way of keeping track if you've been to 100% of the places throughout the entire world. This game, you are this little bug. I can't remember if you're a bug or a crab. I think you're a little tiny bug, and you have this ball, and you end up being the postmaster on this island, but in reality, what you're doing is you're going through this ball, and it's a pinball game. It's a pinball / Metroidvania style game, which is absolutely unique, very, very cool. And you go through these different sections in the land after you get certain abilities with your ball in order to reach other areas, and you go into these different areas, and some of these different areas will actually have bosses that you can actually beat. So the boss will be in the pinball area, and you get these flippers everywhere and throughout the entire land that will flip the ball to wherever you want it to go. I mean, I was so obsessed with this game, I had to play it nonstop until I beat it. And then there's this actually really cool kind of like being that you have to protect, and then eventually you'll end up flying off on this creature once you beat it. I hope that they come out with another version, either a DLC for that game. I haven't checked to see if there's a DLC for this game. I don't think there is. This is one game that I really hope that they add a DLC for, or I hope they come out with a sequel, because I want to play some more Yoku's Island Express. I think it's an absolutely fantastic game. 21st on the list is Unravel 2. This is a game I played with my daughter non-stop. We actually recorded all of our playthroughs on different videos. It is awesome. It is actually a really good time with two players. In this game, you are two yarn characters, and you go through these different levels, and you have to solve puzzles together with your two yarn characters in order to advance to get to the different sections. And you slowly go up this lighthouse to the very top, so the last world will be at the very top. There are secret worlds, like levels that you can go to that will have additional puzzles. I thought the levels were great on this game. I thought the controls were great, and we had such a good time playing this game. The game has a good message to it. Once you beat it and you see the message that this game has, and it's actually an EA game that doesn't have a lot of the EA BS. So EA, I feel, is a nasty company with some of their games. They overpriced a lot of their games. In this game, they actually offer it for a decent price. It's a good experience. It's a great co-op play. And every now and then, my daughter always goes, hey, I wish they would come out with another Unravel. I wish they added more to that so we can play that again. That's how much she loved that. 20th on the list is a game that satisfies my Marble Madness itch, and that is marble it up. This is an arcade game where you're rolling this big marble through these different levels, and what you have to do is you have to go from a starting point of the level all the way to the end. Very simplistic, but the thing that makes it really, really hard and challenging is that you have to do it in a certain amount of time. The better the time, the better a reward you get, the better medal you get. You can get bronze medal, silver medal, gold medal, and then there's actually a gold star medal, and then there's another one which is like diamond or something if you end up getting really fast and beating that. Every single level in the game has a secret marble that you have to try to find hidden on the levels. I think the level design's amazing. The movement of the marble it feels realistic, and it is an awesome arcade game to play. I do wish they had the additional content out for it. I'm still waiting for that. I went on their website to see, hey, is there any additional content? And there's something called Marble Mayhem, and I believe that's additional content that is for the game that eventually may make it to the Switch. But they have a partnership with Apple Arcade, and that's the main reason why. I think that's the main reason why we haven't seen it on the Switch yet. Either that, or maybe they're still trying to port it. As far as I understand, based on their website, I believe that Marble Mayhem is already available for Marble Arcade. So I'm hoping that eventually, I don't know if it's a time exclusive or what through that partnership, but I'm hoping eventually they'll end up updating it on the Nintendo Switch. 19th on the list is another roguelite, and it is Dead Cells, and it is my favorite roguelite. I don't think I've played a game on the Switch yet as far as roguelite games that has beat it. Hades came close. I think between Hades and Dead Cells was kind of a, more of a preference thing. I recently got Slay the Spire, and I can't wait to play that. I'm wondering to see how well that does as far as roguelite games. But yeah, with Dead Cells, it's got this almost like Metrovania style to it. You go through the levels as this kind of like this dead soul within this armor, and you can kind of choose which armor, which weapon you want to start out with. And the controls in this game are absolutely on point. And they are on point. They feel so good. The pixel art is so good. I like how as you go into the levels, you can branch out to different areas. And then once you branch out to different areas, it'll take you to a different land. And then when you get to that different land, you'll face different enemies. And then you can actually branch out to face different bosses. But it is such a good title. And they constantly come out with new content on it. They come out with new expansion DLCs. I think maybe, I can't remember how many they have now, but I think they have 3 DLCs for it now. And the DLCs are not expensive. A lot of them are like $5. And definitely well worth it. They've done a great job at supporting this title. 18th on the list is Doom, the 2016 version of Doom, where you are the Doomslayer. The Doomslayer, you're on this facility in Mars, and everything just goes to shit. Monsters everywhere, killing people. It is such a fast and furious game. The story in this game is fantastic. I was actually surprised about the story in this game. A lot of first-person shooter games don't have a fantastic story to them. They just don't. But this one, I actually enjoyed the story a lot. I love how the characters that they had in this game. I like the environments. I like how the action is so fast and furious. This is not a first-person shooter that you can just stay in one spot and strafe back and forth. No. If you do that, you're dead. You're dead meat. This is a game where you have to constantly move, and shoot like crazy. The fatalities in this game, as you're doing these fatality moves on a lot of the creatures, like when you come up from behind and you snap their neck, it's just awesome. It's just so awesome. I love Doom 2016 version that they ported over to the Switch. The graphics are not as good. I mean, and I know a lot of people that played this game on a different console or on their $7,000 computer with this super high-end video card. First thing those people complain about, it looks crap on the Switch. It looks like crap. Visuals for this game on the Switch are not good. I'm not gonna lie, it's not good, but it plays well. They had to dumb down the visuals for a little bit, but it plays well. I still think it looks good. For portability, for the sake of portability and being able to play it anywhere I want, to take my Switch anywhere, I'll sacrifice graphics for that. I'm fine with that. But great title if you're into first-person shooters. 17th game on the list is another Metrovania game, and it is absolutely amazing. It's not popular at all. It's one of those hidden beautiful gems on the Switch eShop, and that is the Mummy Demastered. Beautiful music in this game. Classic Metrovania style almost perfected, where you're like this army soldier, you're trying to chase down the mummy, and you go through these different sections and face some bosses. Now, interesting thing about this game is when you die, your corpse is left over like a zombie, and you have to go back to your corpse that's animated, and you have to kill it in order to get your crap back. All your guns, all your everything. In order to get everything back, you have to go back and kill your former self. And that is not bad usually, unless you die in the worst place possible, surrounded with a bunch of hard enemies. I did that one time, and oh my god, it took me like 40 minutes to get my crap back because I kept on dying because I couldn't kill the enemies. It's a fantastic game. The music though, like I said already, the music, beautiful music. Story, not something you can write home to because it's very, very simple. 16th on the list is a game, one of the very, very first games I bought for the Switch. I mean, I want to say it was probably like maybe my 4th game on the Switch. And that is Steamworld Dig 2. Man, what a great game. It's not very long. I think it's about 8 or 10 hours or something from what I remember. It looks great. It plays great. It's got some great platforming elements in this game. And you are like this robot that ends up getting to this town, and you need to find out what's going on with all these earthquakes and stuff happening below the ground. And what you do is you dig down from the town at the top, and you go all the way down, and then eventually you meet a small little underground town with a few people in it. And then there's a whole story between them and the people above on the town on the surface. You end up getting abilities as you go through the game. Awesome story. Awesome controls, great platforming. The platforming, I think, is probably the most incredible thing in this game. I didn't feel any kind of loosey-goosey, like, oh, I fall off the edges or here and there. It felt just right. 15th on the list is Valkyria Chronicles. So this game is made by Sega. And when you say Sega, well, what's the first thing that you think of? The first thing you think of when you see Sega is Sonic, right? Sonic. Everyone's so obsessed with Sonic when it comes to Sega. I actually think Valkyria Chronicles is one of Sega's masterpiece games. That is how good it is. This game is a tactical game. And it's got this beautiful anime style. I mean, I love everything from the main menu of this game all the way through the combat in this game and the scenes in this game. And you have this evil empire in this game. Well, I wouldn't say evil. It's just an empire that's in a war with another group. And you have this town that gets caught up in that war. And you're following the adventures of the characters in that town. But yeah, I love the battle in this game. The battles are not very easy either. Sometimes there's tough objectives that you have to avoid either avoid or achieve. And when I say avoid, that means like something might be like prevent this character from dying. And there have been times where certain missions I failed often. The main menu of the story is in this book. As you're flipping through this book, you end up tackling the next mission in this book. And every time you tackle that, it kind of adds to that book. Characters awesome, graphics awesome, menus awesome. A beautiful tactical game. It really, really is. 14th on the list is, well, we already had Doom, the 2016 version. Well, now we have Doom Eternal. It is another first-person shooter, and it's the sequel of the other Doom title. I think they did an awesome job continuing the story in this game. Some of the scenes in this game were just jaw-dropping. Like when you see like this huge demonoid figure as you're going through the levels. Like there's one part where I looked up, I was like, holy cow. They've added a whole lot more upgrades in this game. They've added more enemies in this game. And I think the level design in Doom Eternal is so much better than the first Doom. And you have the Doom Fortress, which is flying in the sky. It's another home run for Bethesda as far as the Doom is concerned. I think Doom Eternal is fantastic. The only thing that I'm not really crazy about in this game is that there's a whole lot of lack of ammo in this game. So what they do is they force you to use a chainsaw more in this game in order to get ammo, which is really annoying. Sometimes I feel like there's just like, wait a minute, can't they just add just a little bit more ammo here? And then I think the upgrades are just, I don't know, maybe just a little too much compared to the first game. The first game, the upgrades were very, very simple. You just upgrade certain things and you're done. But I feel like in this version, there's so many different other things you can upgrade. And some of the combat has been a little bit more complicated. We're like, hey, set this monster on fire and then kill it. I don't know. I'm the kind of person that if I'm in a first-person shooter, I just give me a lot of ammo and let me shoot the crap out of them. Please. That's all I want to do. Awesome game. Definitely recommend it. If you haven't played any of the Doom 2016 or the Doom Eternal, then it is definitely worth a playthrough if you're into first-person shooters. 13th game is another awesome co-op game. It's a beautiful co-op game. This game is called Overcooked, and it's so much fun to play with other people. You are chefs. You are in a kitchen. You have to run around frantically and complete orders. That's all you got to do. You have orders that come in and say, hey, I want this particular food item with these ingredients. You have to make that item and then deliver the item. And there's a lot of different things in this game, in this kitchen. There's like prepping food items by cutting them up. There's cooking them. There's putting them on the plate. There's serving them. There's getting the plate back. There's cleaning the dishes. And it becomes this crazy mayhem because you have to work together as a team with other players. Awesome game. If you end up liking Overcooked, you can get a lot of Overcooked action because there's Overcooked 2, and then there's the additional stuff inside of Overcooked All You Can Eat. If you haven't purchased any of these Overcooked titles, go with All You Can Eat. Just go with that one. I think that one has first, second, and all the extra stuff. And then I believe some of the graphics may have been remastered on that version. I can't remember. But if you haven't played Overcooked, go with that version. Fantastic co-op game. I absolutely love it. 12th game on the list is Eastward. This is something that I beat a little while ago. Really fantastic top view pixel art game where you go on this adventure of these two characters named Sammy and John, and you have to find out what's going on the surface. So you're in this town that's in the ground, and then eventually you end up escaping the town, and you go from place to place, and then there's this crazy miasma that goes around and basically annihilates everything, and you have to figure out what's going on with the miasma and the surface over the years and the secret behind Sammy's past. So interesting game, really cool. There hasn't been a game that has given me the vibes that Eastward gives me since like the early Secret Amount of Days, Chrono Trigger. I mean, that's how good the game is. The music's good, the characters are good, and it's just fun. It's just really fun. I mean, the controls for controlling both Sammy and John are actually well done. You can actually have them both kind of be together as you're going through the levels, or you can split them up and then have them do different things. Sometimes you have to split them up. There's certain puzzles that you won't be able to solve unless you split them up and have one person go someplace and activate a lever or step on a plate or whatever to get through that puzzle. But yeah, Eastward is a high recommend for me. It's not priced bad either. I think it's like $30. 11th on the list is Metroid Dread. So this game is continuing the Metroid story onto a new planet where you try to recover, see what's going on with these EMMIs that have been sent to this planet, and you encounter somebody called Ravenbeak, and Ravenbeak takes away all of your powers, takes Samus's powers, takes them all away, and then that's how you basically start your adventure on that planet. You have to go through the different sections in the facilities for that planet and get your abilities back. And I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen later on in the game, but eventually you'll find out who Ravenbeak is and what's his main goal with Samus. I think the graphics look great. You know, a lot of people were bitching and moaning about this game, saying, oh no, the graphics aren't that great and blah blah blah. Okay, you know what? A lot of the games on the Switch are not going to have high-end graphics. They're just not. Switch is not a system that has high processing for big graphical games. And yes, it's kind of like a 2.5D type of game, but they've done a great job on it. I think the story-wise, they did a great job. The environments look amazing. For my tastes, I feel like they look amazing. I do feel like there's too much animation in certain points. There's certain points where I'm like, God, man, do I have to see this animation again? Let's get past this animation. Just take me to where I need to go. But yeah, it's fun. So why is it only 11th on the list? It could be a lot higher if they would have had a little bit more of an evolution in this game. I like how they tied the story, the Metroid story, to like a lot of the other pieces that you've seen in previous Metroid games, which is really cool. A lot of what's in Dread I've seen before. It just looks prettier and it's a little bit more flushed out, and it's obviously a new story continuing on. I just wish that they would have evolved it a little bit more and maybe give Samus just a whole new look. She's had the same suit for like ever. I really wish they would just kind of slim her suit up and just change the way she looks. I'm not a big fan of her big shoulder blade, like her big shoulder blade kind of round armor pieces on there. I would really love to see them change that up. The other thing I would like to see is maybe an evolution and going from planet to planet. Instead of being stuck on one planet with this one big facility or whatever, and you're going into different sections of the planet, why not just have you go in, you hit a facility on one planet, and then maybe you can travel to another planet and make it feel just a little bigger, like you're in this big solar system and you can travel from place to place. I think that would have been really cool. The bosses were really cool on it too. I thought the bosses were really good. And one thing I really like is that they really took advantage in this game of the different levels of Samus, whether you're kneeling, standing up, or you're sliding or in a ball. They really took advantage of that, because a lot of the bosses you couldn't hit unless you were facing a certain level. Like sometimes, like the head of a boss would be in a position where you had to be standing straight up, or maybe you had to be crouching. And I like how they kind of took advantage of that. And like there's certain times where you had to slide underneath bosses. So they did a really good job needing to perform those different type of mechanics around these tougher enemies or bosses. 10th game on the list is Untitled Goose Game. Now, when this game was first released on the Nintendo Switch, it was a single-player game only. And then later on, what happened is they released a co-op mode to it to allow somebody else to play with you from the very beginning of the game all the way through to the very end. And it was one of the best experiences with a video game that I played with my daughter. We just had a blast. We had a blast being these two geese that were in this town causing mayhem and solving the puzzles in each part of the town. And the puzzles are basically a list. And in the list, they'll say, hey, do this or do that. And you need to find a way to make those items on the list happen. And then once you do all the lists in a particular, all the items on a list within a particular area, it'll eventually open up a way to get to the next section. Great game. I like the graphics. I like it's got a lot of charm. This game has a ton of charm. 9th game on the list is Katamari Damacy Reroll. This is another port. I absolutely enjoyed the crap out of this game. So this game, you are the prince of, I can't remember what the king is called, but anyway, you get sent down into the earth, then you have to go into these different parts on the world, these different levels, and collect a bunch of items in each of the levels, and you're rolling this giant Katamari ball. And as you collect items on the ball and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you will have an objective to get the ball to a certain size. And then once you complete that objective at the very end of the level, the king says, okay, you know what? You collected all this stuff, and he takes all the stuff you made in the Katamari ball and he throws it up in the sky and creates a star out of it. So he's kind of replacing the stars as you go through these different levels and you gather up all these items into this ball. And man, it is so much fun. I love the levels in this game. The levels are so damn cute, and the music is absolutely joyful. There's one song on one level that I love so much that I had to look it up on my Google Music and play it non-stop for like 20 minutes. I love Katamari Damacy Reroll. It is a solid game. It's a game that utilizes both analog sticks on your controller because you need to basically turn and roll the ball in a certain way. 8th on the list is another shooter. This might be the highest ranked shooter on the list. Yes, it is. It is Assault Android Cactus. What an awesome shmup game. It's got full co-op play for up to 4 players, I believe. You are androids, you on this big ship, and you basically fight through different sectors to eventually get to the core of the ship, and you'll end up fighting the core machine of the ship at the very end. This game is nothing but arcade bliss. It really is. They've just done a great job on it. It's not a very long game as far as the campaign. The campaign is very, very small, actually. And I was actually kind of disappointed in that. I was disappointed that it went by so fast. And I wanted more. Now, you can replay the levels in each of one of the sectors, try to get a better score. And then as you go through each one of these sectors, you'll unlock additional androids. You start off with the main android. And then later on, as you go through, you'll find other ones that you'll be able to play. Every android has a primary and secondary weapon. But yeah, if you're into shmups, pick this one up. This one's really, really good. I hope they add more content. I'm really hoping they release a DLC or some kind of sequel to the game. So 7th on the list is a game that came out not too long ago. A few months ago. It is Mario Golf super rush. I think it came out maybe in May, and this game is an amazing golf game. It really is amazing. My only complaint with this game is that it's a little too easy. I thought it was too easy. It's too easy to get under par in a lot of the courses, and I understand why. It's a game that's probably geared for kids. In this game, you have two different options. You have an adventure mode, or you can play a normal stroke mode on the courses. They're constantly adding new DLC that, like, with new characters. There is a new course, I believe, that they added. I haven't tried that one yet. Controls in this game are awesome. They're on point. I've never had any issues swinging the club, hitting the ball, hitting it just right, or any kind of approach shots toward the green. I felt like all those shots were pretty much, I could hit them perfectly every time. The only course that had a little bit of problem was toward the end, which was Bowser's course, because that course had a lot of concrete and hard surfaces that when the ball lands on it, they could bounce and go out of bounds. And it had smaller areas that you can actually hit the ball. That was probably the most challenging course. But yeah, this game, if you're into golf games, this game is super, super awesome. I think Hot Shots Golf, though, is still a better golf game in my opinion, especially the one on the PS Vita. The PS Vita Hot Shot Golf is absolutely amazing. That one is really, really challenging. Sixth on the list is City Skylines. Great city builder. If you're into city building, this is the game to get on the Switch. It does not look as good as the versions that are on the PC or on any other consoles. That's one thing. Visually, it is subpar on the Nintendo Switch. And the performance is not that great on the Switch. There are times where I experience frame rate drops. But yeah, this game, I love everything about it. I love managing the city. I love building it up. I love how you can build up power, different type of energy sources for your city, end up buying different buildings and putting it wherever you want in your city. It is just a fantastic city builder. You have to manage so many different things in the game. You have to keep your people happy. You have to manage garbage collection. You have to buy additional land later on to then expand residential. And there's just so much to it. There's actually a day and night mode. I can't say enough about City Skylines. Yes, visually not good. Yes, performance-wise not as great. But as far as creativity and being able to build your own city on the go, portable, absolutely dig this game. And it's not that expensive either. And this game goes on sale quite a bit. I actually ended up picking this game up on a $2 sale. So for $2, it was the best deal ever. Out of all the Switch games I bought, I think that one was the best purchase. But full price, I don't think it's that bad. I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe it was around $29, and maybe it's still at $29. I can't remember if it's $29 or $39. But definitely not a $60 title, and it's definitely, if you like city building, then I highly suggest that game. We're almost to number one. Fifth game on the list is Dying Light. This game just came out not too long ago. It is a port of one of my favorite games, and this is the Platinum Edition. This one has everything. It has all the DLCs, everything together in one beautiful package. And let me tell you, as far as ports go, it is one of the best ports on the Switch. Performance, I'm actually kind of amazed. I'm amazed they were able to get the performance to the point that they got it. Running and doing all these parkour moves, running from open world environment with all these zombies, tons of zombies everywhere, and it just runs like a dream. And graphically, it's probably nowhere near what you would find on the other systems. It looks good for my taste. It performs well. It's got an awesome story. You are this agent from this GRE. It drops down into Haran, and you have this evil guy named Rice, and eventually you end up facing him later on. You have these two different sections, actually three if you count the following. You have these three different sections of city area, the slums, and this other part. I can't remember what the other part's called. And then in the following, you can actually go into like a dune buggy and run over zombies, and that one is absolutely awesome too. But yeah, lots of content here. This game has lots of content on the Switch. I mean, from all these different expansions to the main game, and there's so many different little missions that people will assign you. And there's some that I actually never ran through on the PS4, but now that I bought it again on the Switch, I'm doing those extra missions that I never did before. And so it's kind of like a first time experience for those. But yeah, if you're into zombies, you're into open world, survival thing, Dying Light is just awesome. It is awesome. Fourth on the list is Mario Kart 8. I don't know what I can say about this game. I think everybody knows Mario Kart 8. Kart racer, awesome graphics, plays well, great courses, lots of characters, lots of vehicles that you can ride, from motorcycles to the regular carts, and then you have different types of aerial type of equipment, like kind of like that, the hang gliding thing. And it doesn't have just 50cc, 150cc, and 100cc. This game also has a 200cc that forces you to use the brake, because if you don't use the brake on 200cc, you're flying off the course, and you'll end up bumping the sides and you'll slow down. There's no way you can win in 200cc without using the brakes. Mario Kart 8 is awesome. I don't know, I feel like it's the ideal local competitive game within your family to play on the big screen. Mario Kart 8 is one of those games that you have to buy first for your Switch. No doubt. Third game on the list, we're almost there. So number 3 on this ginormous 60 game list is Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight's another Metroidvania. It is super awesome. You're in the bug world in this game. It's very dark, gloomy. The world in this game is huge, and the boss fights in this game are hectic. It's very, very hectic. They're very hard. They are based on a pattern too, but sometimes it breaks that pattern, which makes it really hard. For the most part, a lot of the enemies that you face will end up having a certain pattern to their attacks. But that does not mean they're easy, because even if you pick up on the pattern, you still have to execute. And it's very hard to execute. A lot of the quests in this game, I just don't bother with, because they're just impossible. There's this one quest where you have to carry this flower from one area to another, and you gotta do it without getting hit once. The minute you get hit once by anything, the flower disintegrates, and you have to go back and get it and start it all over again. Yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. Not doing it. I'm not even gonna attempt it. So this game does have multiple endings, which is actually really, really awesome. And I don't even think of some of these endings you will actually be able to reach without looking them up. There are certain endings that are very obvious, because the game kind of makes you focus on a certain part in the world to try to get certain components to open up a certain area. Cheap game, I think it's like $19 for all the content that it gives you, and for how large the game is, and the gameplay and the graphics being hand drawn like that. I cannot express how amazing it is. In this game, there's not a whole lot of talking or anything. I mean, there's dialogue, but it's very mysterious. There's a lot of mysterious elements to this game, which adds to the feeling you get in the game. There's nobody there to handhold and tell you whatever, do this or do that. There are no voices. It's just these little weird sounds from the characters that come out, and then you'll see text, and you can read the text. They did a masterful job, and I'm definitely going to pick up the other game they're making. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Silk Song, if I'm not mistaken, and I had to look up to see when it's being released. The top 2 are both open world titles. Number 2 on the list is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Probably the best, or one of the best Legend of Zelda games. I wouldn't say it's the best, because in my heart I still have nostalgia for the very first Legend of Zelda that I used to play non-stop. I must have beat the first Legend of Zelda like crazy, and then it got to the point where I started challenging myself. Hey, instead of going for the easy dungeons first, let me just go for the super hard ones first with the wooden sword, and go through it with very limited life and wooden sword. That's how much I loved that game. And Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, definitely awesome. This game is a 3D open world. The graphics, fantastic. Towns look great. People, great. In some of like the lore and the story, when you go back and you see what was happening, it's triumphant. I think Nintendo did such a great job with this game. And there's a reason why people were screaming and saying, hey, I want Zelda 2, I want Breath of the Wild 2. Because it's just so fantastic. There's lots of shrines that you can go into. Those will have puzzles that you have to solve. I just love how you can go anywhere, you can climb anything, you can climb big cliffs, you can jump off, you can hang glide. Fighting the enemies, it feels so good. You can get so many different weapons, and you can swim, and it's just amazing. Even the things you can do with cooking. You can add ingredients to a pan and fry up some different food items in order to heal yourself or give you different other status boosts. Everything from this game, just visually good, dungeons good, story good. Go from different terrains, from beach to a different area where there's fire, and You need something that protects you against the heat. And there's big enemies, like big, gigantic ogre-style enemies. And then you come across with like other creatures in the sky that are like a giant dragons that float through the sky. They just did such a great job on it. Absolutely love everything about it. Enemies, story, everything. So if it's so good, why is it number 2? Let's go ahead and get to the number 1 game on my list, and I have a good reason for it. It is The Witcher 3, one of my favorite games of all time. I had it on the PS4, put a ton of time into the PS4, and I bought it on the Nintendo Switch, the complete edition, and I'm playing it like crazy on the Switch too. This game has just checks all of those boxes. Story, check. Graphics, check. Creatures, check. Environments, check. Everything just looks so awesome, and it's such a big open world experience. I mean, just the subtleties from like the trees with the wind blowing. The music is fantastic. I feel like this beautiful music just comes in at certain times. It's just like, wow, that just sounds so fantastic. So many quests. There's so many things to do in this game. There's so many quests. There's like hundreds of quests that you can go through, and when you go through the quests, you can fail them. There's a lot of quests that you can fail or succeed. And then there's one thing about this game that gives it such an edge over Breath of the Wild, and that is, I feel like the lore and the character development in this game just feels like it's so much better than Zelda. So let's take the enemies for example, like bosses, big evil bosses. So like in Breath of the Wild, when you have these big evil bosses, do you honestly hate these bosses? How do you feel about them? Like Ganon on most of the Zelda titles. How do you feel about Ganon on this? Do you actually hate him? No, you don't hate Ganon. I don't think I've ever felt any kind of inner hatred toward Ganon on any of the Zelda games that I've played. He's just been there. He's this big badass, that big evil entity there that I have to defeat. But in this game, in The Witcher 3, it makes you want to hate them so bad. A lot of the evil villains in here, it makes you want to run your blade right across their neck. From everyone, from like the kings to the baron to the witches, especially the witches. Those are the ones that really got under my skin. They do such a great job of making you feel the characters, whether or not you love the characters or whether or not you absolutely can't stand them. And another big reason why this game is above Breath of the Wild is because I feel like Breath of the Wild is very, very safe. Nintendo usually doesn't put risky content in a lot of their games. A lot of first-person title games are usually pretty child-friendly or teen-friendly if it's a game that just can't be played by a child. But with The Witcher 3, there's nothing safe. There is nothing safe about this game. I mean, there's blood and guts and slicing enemies up and watching their limbs fall to the ground and watching their entrails splatter all over the place when you're killing them. And then there's the sexual stuff. There's nudity, there's partial nudity in this game. There's whorehouses. You can go and have Geralt end up having sexual relations in the whorehouses. And then you have other characters that are kind of main characters within the game that you can have sexual relations with them. And depending on who you have sex with and a romance with, and that affects the ending of the game. And I love how this game is not safe. It's got that risky element. It's got that nice bite to it, that spicy meatball. There's just that extra edge to it. From the beautiful lore, characters, from the beautiful environments, everything just rolled up in one package, and then this extra feeling it gives you when you encounter different characters. It's awesome. It is really awesome. I love The Witcher 3. I love the Witcher lore. Even on the Netflix series, I love the Netflix Witcher series. I thought that was fantastic. I'm glad they're continuing with it, and absolutely love this game. That's why this game is number 1 on my list, and it wasn't really hard to put that on my list. I knew Breath of the Wild was going to be up there, but this game, considering the fact that I played it on 2 different systems, and I put countless hours into it, and the combat is good, and the combat is very fluid, and I have anti-aliasing turned off, and it runs runs well with anti-aliasing turned off on the Switch. I like the jagged edges. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's the kind of person I am graphically with this. Geralt has different abilities. You have a skills tree where you can level up Geralt in different areas. It is so good, and that is why it's #1 on my list, and it deserves to be #1 on my list. Wow. Okay, so I'm surprised I'm still alive and I survived that list. There you go, my top 60 games on Nintendo Switch that I've been able to play since day one of buying my Nintendo Switch. Now, I said earlier in the video there was going to be a surprise little challenge. It's a challenge that's going to be very difficult, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway just because. Kind of toying around with the idea of having another giveaway and having it be a game off this list in this video. Right now I have it set to The Witcher 3 because it is my #1 game on this list, but I'm going to leave it up to you guys. In this video, if you comment and vote for a game, then the game that has the most votes will be the game on this giveaway if the challenge is completed. If you can complete the challenge, and the challenge is getting 300 likes on this video within 30 days. I've never done this before on any video. I want to see, I'm kind of curious. I don't think any of my videos have ever had 300 likes in that amount of time. Probably never, ever. But I'm going to throw it out there. If you guys somehow manage to get 300 likes on this video within 30 days, I will take the most requested game in the comments, and I will make that a giveaway in January. Alright, so that is it for this video. There's my top 60. If you guys liked this video, please like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And I'm kind of curious in the comments on what you guys think of the top 60. And whether or not you agree with my list. I am Jim the Game Guru, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye, guys.